Hi, iPower, hi. This week's topic is happiness, and I'm going to share with you guys a little bit of my views on happiness. I'm going to try and keep it short, and I don't want to make it too philosophical or religious, so if I do, please slap me in the face. Okay, so the question was, what do you need to be happy? And Dean says, if you think about it, what would you personally need to have in your life to be genuinely happy for the rest of your days? Okay, this is a tricky question because you said, what do you need to be happy, not feel happy? And I think that's an important distinction to make. So what I want to talk about is what happiness is, which is a very tricky thing to talk about. But I think there are two main types of happiness. One is everlasting happiness, which means a feeling of pleasure or goodness that is sustained indefinitely. I think this is what everyone wants, but no one really knows what it is or how to get it. And I'm not really going to talk about that. I'm going to focus on the other type, which is the opposite, the non-sustained happiness, or for the purposes of this clip, I'll call it material happiness. Material happiness is what I believe we are referring to when we say happiness, which basically I break down further into two categories, pleasure and satisfaction. Pleasure is anything that comes from sensual gratification, so our senses of sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. Whenever they're stimulated in a positive manner, we feel pleasure, and depending on the situation, we might say that we're happy or we're enjoying ourselves. So, for example, when you eat a piece of chocolate, it tastes nice, you enjoy it, you feel good. Another example, let's say you're listening to music and you enjoy it, it feels good, you feel happy. Or you watch a movie, that's like a longer example, for 2 hours, say, and during that time you might feel happy. These are all examples of sensual stimulation, I think, which is, I would rank it at the very bottom on the scale of happiness. So moving up, I would say the next category would be emotional gratification. So things like anything that stimulates your emotions. Like you can listen to music and feel emotional, or you can watch a movie and feel emotional. You could talk to people, have relationships with people, and get emotional gratification from those interactions. I'm not saying that relationships with people are always about emotional gratification. That's just one component, that's one thing you get out of it. But when people say, I'm in love with this person, or this person makes me feel good, I think they're referring to that phenomenon of emotional gratification. And then, moving up, we get into the more serious levels of happiness. Things like satisfaction. Satisfaction, I define as simply fulfillment of desires. So everyone has desires, and when we fulfill a desire, we feel satisfied. It's a good feeling, and we might say we're happy. So just as an example, let's say I wanted to ride a motorbike. I don't have one, I just want to ride one. So I work for a long time, and I save up my money, and I buy a motorbike, and then I ride it. So I feel happy now because for two reasons. One is that I fulfilled a desire, my desire to have and ride a motorbike, and two is the actual act of riding the motorbike. While I'm on it, my senses are stimulated, so I can feel the wind on my face. I'm going at a high speed. It's stimulating the nerves and the chemicals in my brain. So that's really a combination of satisfaction and pleasure. And I think for all these different things, no matter what you do, happiness this type of happiness is subjective, which means the same things that make me happy will not necessarily make you happy. I think everyone understands this. But the mechanics of the situation are the same. It's just I have a desire, And until that desire is fulfilled, I feel unhappy or unsatisfied. I may not feel, miserable, but there are two sides and I'm on this side. So when that desire is fulfilled, I feel happy, I feel satisfied. But the problem is I then desire something else. So this is just, in my experience, the nature of desire. When we fulfill our desires, we then have new desires. So saying or asking the question, what do you need to be happy? I don't think there's any, at least in this type of happiness, there's no one thing that will make you happy. Happiness is a very short-term, temporary thing that occurs when we fulfill our desires or when our senses are stimulated. And then it vanishes, and then we have new desires. We fulfill those, we feel happy again, and then it vanishes again, and then we have more desires. So it's a very, in my experience, a very temporary thing. But although we might all have different desires down here at the bottom, I think as we move up and fulfill the desires, every time we fulfill the desire, we want something else, but we want more. We want more than we had before, something different, something more powerful or meaningful, whatever it is, something more than we had before. So eventually, we're going to move up towards eternal happiness, whatever that may be. As we desire and fulfill, we have more desires and fulfill more desires as time goes on. So if you check out the thread that Dean posted on this topic, you'll see a reply by Ryan, and he posted a picture showing Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which basically starts at the bottom with physiological needs, then going up to safety, love, and belonging, esteem, and then at the top you have self-actualization. So this, I think, follows a similar principle. I'm not going to go into all the details of Maslow's hierarchy, but basically at the bottom we start with a very low level needs or desires or stimulants, and then we move up, and the principle is that as we move to the top, our desires will converge, so your desires will become similar to mine at the very top. At the bottom and in the middle, they could be very different. So I think that's where most people are. We're somewhere in the middle or we're at the bottom. I think very few people actually get to the top. So, yeah. As for me, in my life, what do I feel would make me happy in the long term? Basically, when I look at making decisions, I try to imagine myself at the end of my life, like say I'm on my deathbed, and then put the decision in that context. So when you think about it from that perspective, a lot of things that seem important to you now may not be important to you really at all, to what you really want in terms of your entire life. So that really helps to decide between things that might make me happy and might not. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't ramble on too long, and I look forward to seeing your responses. Thanks.